Hello there, citizens. I am the terror that flaps in the night. I am the floaty that will not flush no matter how many times you try in the toilet bowl of crime. I am Darkwing Duck, telling you please, talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. Whatever the heck that means. After all, you are watching Intellectual Podcast with your ears.
Hey everybody, welcome to the 202nd episode of the Intellectual Podcast. I'm your host, David S. Dawson, and we've got a great episode coming to you today. I had the opportunity to sit down recently with Terry Ross. Many of you will know her as acting coach here in San Diego at Acting Professionally, and she has been an acting teacher for almost every actor that I've ever had the pleasure of working with here in San Diego. Seems most everybody goes through her courses at some point in their career here in SD, and we had a wonderful time getting to sit and chat and talk about her career, her upcoming film Carving a Life, which if you listen to the show regularly, we spoke with Krenza Laguerre, who was her lead actress in that film last week. Terry directed the film. It was written by Lisa Brun and produced by Lisa Brun. And it comes out this weekend, this Friday. Premieres up in Los Angeles. And we'll do a week-long run in LA. Your ability to get tickets and find additional information on those screenings will be in the show notes for this episode. And I encourage you, if you're in Los Angeles, to do what you can to go support this very ambitious film that Terry directed, and see what some local San Diego filmmakers have done feature film wise here in town. So not really much anything else to say. We did the San Diego International Film Festival this weekend. Brian and I attended and got to see a lot of really great films. My hats off to Tanya Mantooth and her whole team there. They put on a really good festival, and it was impressive. And Convolution screened as part of a 48-hour block, and it was a real honor to have one of our films screened alongside so many wonderful films that were in the festival. If you get a chance next year, I strongly suggest you attend. So, not a whole lot else to talk about, so we'll go ahead and get into the episode here with Terry Ross on the 202nd episode of the Intellectual Podcast.
Talk hard and enjoy the mindgasm. The Intellectual Podcast starts now.
I just want to... Okay, silence my phone. So, we were just talking before I started recording. Terry came across some old video when you were on To Tell the Truth with a Playboy Playmate.
Yep.
And what a delight to get to watch that on the internet. Thank God for the internet.
Thank God for the
Nothing
internet.
dies, right?
1981.
So you hadn't seen that when that aired?
I never saw it. No, I never saw it. Mm-mm.
So it was all brand new for you.
Totally brand new.
Oh, that's hilarious. So when you came across it, were you searching for it, or did it just...
I just thought, I'm just going to Google Playboy To Tell the Truth, 1980, and then it popped up.
And so that was an episode that was like special because it was the 25th anniversary of Playboy. And
25th
so
anniversary of
they had a Playmate on, and you were the not Playmate,
right?
Pretending to be the Playmate, trying to convince the panel of judges that... Because I'm sure a lot of people listening to the podcast don't know that show.
Right.
You were a part of a panel of which one of you was the actual person that they were trying to discover.
Right, Vicky McCarty.
And the panel, it was 4 celebrities, I use quotes, air quotes on that, who had to talk to you guys, basically grill you real fast and try and figure out which one of you was the actual person they were looking for.
Exactly.
And you say they prepped you for like 3 hours?
For 3 hours, yeah. They gave us printed material. I'm pretty sure we met Vicky, although this is many years ago, so I may just be making that up. And a lot of stuff about her experiences, right, where she went to law school and what edition of Playboy that she was in and her background and all that kind of stuff. So we got a lot of information on Vicky, some information on Playboy, but definitely we didn't get Latin legal terms, which I clearly missed.
Yeah, so the question for you that gave you away was, what does quid pro quo mean?
And
you responded with,
we don't use that term in the type of law I practice. Totally off the cuff and, a ridiculous answer. And the irony is that I was temping in a law firm at the time. So I really...
Man. So you didn't want to watch. You didn't want anybody there watching, right?
No.
You never heard the end of it at work.
No.
Oh, that's funny.
Although I saw Vicky, she hesitated a little with habeas corpus. She had a little trouble getting that out. So... But
I wonder if she was playing that up, though, to look like she didn't
maybe
know
she,
it so
probably she was. Yeah, to not totally give it away,
well.
right?
Throw them off just a tiny bit.
Right. and my not knowing that Christy Hefner's mansion was in Chicago also gave me away.
Right. But I think the quid pro quo is
that was a big giveaway. That's not an attorney.
No attorney in their right mind
doesn't know that. Oh man.
Oh, that's funny. So the big reason we've got you on the show, I've been wanting to have you on the show for a long time.
And it's great to be here. Thank you.
So many of the actors in this town have come up through your programs, and everybody always speaks so highly of having taken classes with you.
Thank you.
But primarily we want to talk today about Carving a Life, which we had Carenza on the other day, and I'm not sure which one of your episodes is going to air first. I haven't made that decision yet. But you directed Carving a Life, and it's coming out
October 13th.
October 13th for like a 1 week run up in LA.
Correct. 1 week run in LA, and then we're hoping to have a run in San Diego at the Digital Gym. And it goes on Amazon and other video on demands on October 13th. And I think we're going to be submitting to the San Diego Film Awards. So.
Cool. I hope so. As one of the producers of the Film Awards, I hope so. No, it's a cool thing whenever San Diegans actually get through making a feature film and get to the point where they're able to get any distribution for it. It's I don't want to sound negative, but it's a fairly rare thing that we get features produced by San Diegans in San Diego that are of a quality that are worth getting any kind of real distribution for, and I think that's wonderful. So can you tell everybody just a little bit about what the film is and why you took it on to direct?
Sure. The story is about Mitch. He's a young artist, a wood carver, and
I like what you're doing here. Kick my feet up too.
He meets the woman who becomes the love of his life, and it seems that life is going really well for him. And then something happens, and he does a real downturn, and we discover that he had been a teenage alcoholic and had been in rehab, none of which he had told his wife, Lauren, that Carenza plays beautifully. And then we watch his life pretty much spiral out of control and hope that he can get himself back on track. And that's what we watch in the course of pretty much the second half of the film.
And who wrote it?
Lisa Brune wrote it. For all of us, with the exception of our AD, Gabe Pan, this was our first feature film for everybody. So it was Lisa's first feature, mine, Oscar's, everybody. So.
And what was the process of you and Lisa coming together?
That's a pretty fun story. Tyler had been my student, or was my student, I think, at the time. And Lisa was just getting into writing, and she wanted to do a short film for Tyler 4 years later. So anyway, we met up in Julian, and we're talking and kind of talking about what the project might be. And we continued to talk for at least a month. And as the story developed, it started becoming clear this was going to be a feature and not a short film. And Lisa wrote many versions of it, but in actuality, the pre-production time for the feature was really short. Maybe not even 2 months.
Wow.
And in retrospect, if I were to ever do another feature, I'd want to spend a good 6 to 8 months on pre-production.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because this has been a topic of mine on the podcast for most of the past year. I spent a year telling everybody, sound, you got to get your sound right. But what I've been saying for the last year is like, okay, now you got to take time on pre-production. Why was 2 months not enough? And what is it you would have hoped to have accomplished better or at all or done differently if you'd had more time on pre?
Where do I begin? I think artistically where I would now have liked to have more time is to really conceive of the visual of the film, the color of the film, the style of the film. I would have wanted to have a better handle on that so that the look and feel of the film is something that I really feel is consistent throughout and is my vision. Secondly, just in terms of, and this is also partly, the visual and look of the film, but really taking time to costume the characters and to, think about their look. I mean, I certainly had things in mind, but because we were really low budget, we couldn't quite do it the way that I would have wanted to do it. And there was a lot of continuity issue in this particular production because initially how the script was written, it was linear for the lead character, Mitch, growing up from the time he was a kid. And then there was Carenza being pregnant through the film. So there was a lot of continuity issues around that had we had more pre-production time would have been easier to handle. And because, of course, we had to shoot out of sequence, instead of day of trying to go, okay, like how pregnant is Carenza now? And like how big is your bump? We would have had all of that figured out quite a bit beforehand. Also, locations.
Even things like costuming a pregnant lady.
Pardon?
Even things like costuming
Yes.
a pregnant lady through the different periods of when she's pregnant.
Right.
Right? So you can't just show up and be like, okay, what do you have for us to wear today?
Yeah, right.
Like if you can think about it ahead of time, okay, well, in the first trimester, she's going to wear certain types of outfits. In the second trimester, she would be naturally switching to a different style.
Exactly.
And then in the third trimester, like even amongst those 3 months of the last trimester, a woman goes into a whole different set of clothes each month because the changes are even more dramatic in that period of time. But yeah, if you don't think about that stuff ahead of time, right, you're just kind of making up as you go.
Kind of making up as you go. I mean, I'm pretty happy with, and in fact, when we actually did an audience screening before we went back and did some more rewrites and some more shoots, somebody commented on how well we had handled the pregnancy, and I'm going,
well, that's nice.
That's
nice. Well, we're always the worst critics of our own
lucky.
stuff, right? Or we should be the worst critics of our own stuff.
But locations is a whole other thing. We were still scrambling for locations when we were shooting, which, you don't want to have happening on pre-production, right? Some locations we lost and then had to get, but, some of it was just we didn't have the time for planning for that. And, oh gosh, what else? I mean, there's so much more. We did luckily have a fantastic artist who did our, help me out here. What's the word? Our
art direction?
We had a great art director, but
marketing?
No, sorry.
Storyboards?
Thank you. Storyboards.
I knew I'd get there eventually.
Yeah. You can't see. I'm putting my hand up so David can see.
She's doing posters? Like different, no.
Different
panels.
pictures.
She's doing panels.
Yeah. So we had a great storyboard artist, which was really helpful. But, and then we went, well, we can get there in a second. So next question.
Well, no, go ahead and go on with where you're headed.
From beginning to end, so we're opening October 13th, November 1st of this year would be 4 years since we started production.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
production.
Time.
That's not pre-production. That's production. We shot the script as written. We were under an ultra-low budget SAG contract, so we had 21 days to shoot, and we shot in those 21 days. And then when I looked at the first edit, the story didn't work. And I realized the story picked up when Mitch and Lauren meet. So I went back and restructured the whole thing for a re-edit and scenes we needed to do, and that the kid stuff needed to be in flashback and stuff. So then we went through a series of edits, and after each edit, it was like, no, we're missing this.
Right.
And then we had to go back and reshoot. And, it was this sort of organic process.
Well, it's interesting because, you hear on the big Hollywood movies like, oh, they're going back for reshoots. And I think oftentimes people who aren't in the know about filmmaking think that that's like a terrible, horrible thing. But it's really just part of that organic process of crafting a film, right? Like until you actually, like you can write it and you can do your edits on your writing and it'll be one thing. But once you get a director and then the actors coming in and they're laying those lines out and putting interpretation to it, it becomes something else. And then when the editor starts cutting it together, then you really kind of see if all those components actually work.
Right. If the story is being told, if our lead character is appealing enough, if the relationship is really working and believable, or if we're missing pieces there.
And then reshoots are just a tool to fill in gaps and, maybe cover some things where you're running out of light or something on a day of shooting and you just know it could look better.
Yep. There is that. And I'm really grateful that the actors stayed with us through that kind of interminable process of, getting it to fruition in probably about 3.5 years, actually, by the time we were shooting. And we had what we thought was the final edit. And I took a look at it. And I realized we were missing a really crucial scene, and we were dead out of money. I mean, there was nothing. And we had paid everybody along the way. And I went to the crew and I went to the actors and I said, please, we need this scene. Can you, out of the generosity of your heart, do this scene? And I'm so grateful they did. And it completed the film. I think it really, I wouldn't, it wouldn't have felt complete unless we had done that final scene, but sometimes you're so close to the story and the characters, and then you get a little distance and you watch it and then you go, oh, that's what I'm missing.
Do you think if you'd have had the chance to do more pre-production, I'm not sure how you would have done storyboards, but do you think possibly doing a full set of storyboards for the film and kind of getting a better feel for how it would cut together by doing that process might have helped you see some of the things that you ended up seeing in the edit? It
might have, Dave, but also not having ever done a feature film. I don't know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For instance, something, I'd only done short films. And so one of the things I didn't really think about and wasn't really, we didn't really write into the script either, were transitions.
Right.
And that was the first thing, too. I watched and was like, oh, my God, we don't have any way of going from day to night or this location to that location, because you don't have a lot of time in a short film to do that. So you don't pay a lot of attention to that.
Yeah, when we did What's the Vig, the feature that I produced here in town, which some of your students were in.
Yep.
It was the same thing for us. Like I hadn't done a feature prior to that. And I was the editor and the DP. And a producer. And
that's a few hats.
And our director was the writer and director, and he'd never directed a feature. Right. He hadn't directed a short at that point. Like he was really raw. And we had a lot of those same issues, and we had to come back 4 or 5 months later and do a bunch of reshoots to mostly add in transition shots.
Yeah, and that's so important.
One scene flows to the next.
Yeah, it's important for flow, rhythm, timing.
It was really interesting trying to come up with a new Airstream 6 months later. Yeah, I was amazed we found one. It wasn't quite the same, so if you know where to look.
Oh, yeah.
You know where to look. The Airstream's not exactly the same in the pickup shots, but
oh well, it's an Airstream.
But it's an interesting thing to tackle your first feature. No matter how many shorts you've done, I don't think.
Oh, it's a different animal altogether.
I don't think you're ever quite prepared for it.
No, it's a completely different animal. I really felt like I went to film boot camp.
That's what I tell everybody. I was like, I had school. I went to Baylor for acting, and I went to Palomar for radio and television, and then I really learned how to make a movie when I made the festering turd that's What's the Vig.
No way to talk about that movie.
It's an ongoing joke on the podcast. Mark Atkinson speaks so poorly of it on the show. But no, we love and hate the film, and I love it because it's something we accomplished. It's something we set out to do, and we actually completed it. But I can sit and cringe through it with everybody else, because it's definitely first time filmmakers, making their effort. But I've seen some stuff from Carving a Life in various formats the last couple of years, and you don't have a what's the vig on your hand. I know that.
I'm not sure what we have on our hands, but I love
that you took so long though, to get it right.
Right.
I think a lot of filmmakers don't have the patience for that. Some take too long and never finish, right? But I think a lot of us, especially around here in town, are in such a rush to complete stuff. I don't think
it was really important, given the amount of time and particularly with our executive producer Lisa, the amount of personal financial sacrifice she made to the film, my own investment in the story, and in everybody's work in the story. I just wanted us to have something I could, we could all feel proud of,
right?
And yeah, that it was just really important to me that I could feel good about, turning it over to whoever, like the LA Times on October 12th, is going to be looking at it.
Fingers crossed, right? Huh? Fingers crossed that goes well.
Not reading that until after the opening. I do have a funny story for anybody who watches Carving a Life, who's listening. So by the time we did that final scene I was talking about, where everybody was kind enough to donate their time, Carenza had gone back to being a redhead.
Right.
And she's a blonde in the film. And because of this movie that I'm making, I have this big, long blonde braid, and I had some blonde bangs. So if anybody's looking careful enough in that picture, we got a hat on her, the bangs, and the braid, but she's a redhead. So
that's fun.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
Yeah, that would be difficult over a 4-year period to keep everybody looking the same.
Right.
Especially because Tyler and Carenza are fairly young, so they're still developing quite a bit from year to year, I would imagine.
Right. Well, also if you watch the film, Tyler's weight it fluctuates 25 pounds or something like that. And it's pretty funny. I mean, he's trim and fit and looks fantastic. But I think luckily kind of the weight gains actually kind of went with what was happening in the story, or I don't know, whatever.
Just tell yourself that.
I'll tell yourself that. And then Sandy, who plays Tyler's best friend in the film, he showed up, I think, with a big old beard one day for a reshoot. And, this was a time situation where he could not possibly have grown a beard somewhere in the middle of those scenes, so he was kind enough to shave it off. But
it's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, right?
Trying to make a movie is nuts.
Yeah,
it really is. It's just nuts. And I say it all the time. It's a miracle for any film to get completed. So congratulations on the miracle.
Thank you.
And it's a second miracle if it's good. And,
right.
Knowing the team that you have in place, I have a feeling you've got a second miracle on your hands. Even though it was your guys' first film, the fact that you took time to get it right and to rework things that needed to be reworked, I think that's a testament to your professionalism and your desire to put out good work, which, anybody who's taken your acting classes and stuff always talks about, that aspect of working with you, that you're somebody they trust and somebody they feel comfortable performing with, and I don't see how you could bring anything but that to your film set too.
Oh, so kind.
So I look forward to seeing the film. I'm
looking forward to having you see
really
it.
eager to see it. What else happened? Were there any big mishaps that happened in the course of filming that?
Yes, I'm not
cautionary tales you could share with other filmmakers that you're comfortable sharing with other filmmakers.
Okay, I will share one.
Okay.
So, obviously, and everybody who's worked on independent films know this, you're trying to keep the budget down, and you go to friends to see if you can use their space to film in. Lisa Winans was one of the kind people who let us film there, probably much to her dismay, but she was very,
She's
very
delightful.
Yeah, fantastic. And she's in the film, and she's wonderful in it. And she was very kind to let us use her beautiful home. Lisa had a friend who had a condo that she thought would be perfect for Mitch and Lauren's, house, Mitch's house. And I went over and I met her, and I got a really bad feeling. And because she said things like, well, if you, mess something up in here, you can just pay for it.
Right.
And things like that just set
Little
off a
red
little
flags,
alarm bell.
yeah.
And I said, Lisa, I don't think it's a great idea for us to do that. Let's just rent, an Airbnb or something, And she's like, no, she'll be fine with it. She'll be fine with it. And David, I can't begin to tell you the mess that the apartment was. So our art director went over and spent 10 hours cleaning this place because there was just crap everywhere. There's just stuff everywhere. We shot there for 3 days. And after we were done shooting, this person began just harassing Lisa to redo the floors, to repaint the house. Lisa ended up being out over $4,000.
Oh my God.
To do these so-called necessary repairs from us
Wow.
being in there. And, I can tell you, for Showcase, I rent for 13 years. I've been renting houses, and I always get my deposit back. I mean, we're careful
Right.
with other people's property.
Yeah.
And I think she just saw it as an opportunity to deep pockets and.
Yeah, you hear those kinds of stories out of films up in LA and whatnot.
Yeah.
And
it's a shame because.
Which is why it's hard to shoot in LA, because everybody who owns a home up there sees it as a cash grab. Like, right. Oh, well, I'll clean this and get the film to, replace my kitchen.
Right. I just, so the friendship was lost. We were out of a whole bunch of money.
Man, that's tough.
And we didn't have a huge budget to start with,
right.
And certainly not $4,000 for 3 days of shooting. And, so I guess my, this cautionary tale is, if you can, rent on VRBO, let them know what you're doing, put up have your insurance, put up a little extra money, but, it's not worth ruining personal relationships over to do that, I don't think.
Yeah, well, and it's that difficult thing. It's like one thing to ask a personal favor on a short film where you're going to pop in for a day, and you're in and you're out. But like on a feature, you're going to be in a lot of locations for a week or two, especially major locations. And that becomes a whole different ask.
Yeah.
So,
it is.
At a certain point, it's like house guests, a couple of days is okay.
They start to stink
a
after
week,
what
they
I
start to
say.
stink, right? So, I think that's one of the challenges when you start going into longer form filmmaking is like making sure you don't overstay your welcome, that you don't stay at some place where they're going to try and take advantage of you for having been there. And yeah, that's tough.
And that was hard. And those were our first 3 days of shooting.
Oh man, what a way to start.
Yeah, that was tough. And the other thing, I know you are a big proponent of more than one camera, but those first couple days we shot with 2 cameras, and most of the footage wasn't usable because the lighting was so off that we couldn't use it. So
that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a proponent of 2 camera shoots or multi-camera shoots, but you have to have some experience doing it too. Like, it's not something I say that everybody is prepared to just run out and start shooting with 2 cameras. You need 2 camera guys who are absolutely in sync and,
right.
Know their settings and, are able to light the scene for both cameras. It's a challenge.
It is. It is a challenge.
Once you've got it set up right, once you've got a team that can actually handle that, it's a wonderful way to work.
Right. It does make it a lot easier, but.
And I like giving actors like the chance to do, long whole scenes.
Right.
And get their close-ups and stuff while they're in the moment.
Yeah, and it's it's really useful for that.
I hate the fake cutaway.
Yeah.
And then maybe that's just me, but like I can when I'm watching films and I go, well, they were telling her, oh, emote this way, emote that way. I don't like that. For me, I can usually watch a movie and be like, okay, yeah, okay, that nobody's actually talking. They're just fake responding to things. Whereas, if they're in the moment and we're able to shoot everything where they're actually doing the work, like I think that's just more fun for me. And
Yeah,
I think for the
absolutely.
actors too.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
Gotta
it doesn't
have
work
people
for
that know what
everybody.
they're doing, though.
Yeah, but it doesn't work for everybody, and,
Right.
and it does take time to build that up. And so, I've been actively building up my team in our short films to do that, because we shot Vig on one.
Right. Uh-huh.
Oh my God, we shot that on an XL2. Huh. It was brand new. We bought it for the film, standard def, but nice top end standard def camera. The thing was a lemon. The tape mechanism just recorded garbage to the tape.
Oh my
God. We couldn't get Canon to fix it or replace it the whole time we were shooting.
What did you do?
We ended up running a FireWire line out of that camera and into a GL2, right? The smaller handheld camcorder. And somebody literally wandered around behind me, hand holding this GL2 while I'm doing handheld shots on the XL2, feeding the signal to that so we could record on an external deck.
Oh my God, that sounds so fun. Not.
But you got to do what you got to do, right?
Got to do what you got to do.
You only have so much time. We couldn't go out and buy another camera.
Right.
We didn't want to shoot on a GL2. That was crap,
Well, again, congratulations for finishing, because, I think, as you said, though, really, people had said this to me, you finished a feature films, and that is, a lot of people talk about it. Not a lot of people actually do it.
Yeah. And I had people at our screening, friends of mine, you even know probably the person I'm talking about. He says to me, I can't believe you made a feature film. And he has a master's degree in radio, television, and film, and he's like, how'd you do it? And he's asking me and my dad this. My dad just looks at me and goes, we decided to do it and did it. Which was always my dad's attitude. He's just like, if you're going to decide to do something, then just go out and do it.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it forever. Just
do it.
Make the decision and go do it. It might fail, but at least you went out and tried. He's like, if you're not trying, you're not doing.
Well, that's so true, and it's a hard thing as artists, but you have to risk failure. You just, you don't learn, you don't grow, you don't really know what actually works for you. You don't end up knowing what your real aesthetic is. You have to risk failure. Yeah, got to jump off the cliff.
It's one of your most powerful tools is the ability to accept failure as part of the process. Because there's a lot of lessons to be learned when you fail.
Well, it's true.
And when you have those lessons and you learn the appropriate things from them, then you don't fail the next time you try, right? You can...
Or you fail differently, right?
Well, you're always going to fail. There's always going to be... I don't care how long you've been making a movie. You're still going to have things that don't work right. That's why, people like Steven Spielberg can make something like the BFG, 35 years into his career. He makes a turd of an animated film. Nobody wanted to see it, and he's one of the greatest filmmakers of all time, but he still goes out there and
But he wanted to make it, so,
he goes out and makes things that he wants to make,
right,
and doesn't care if it's going to succeed or not. He's going to take the chance. And I got to remind myself of that sometimes, Well, J.J. Abrams had Star Trek Into Darkness. Was it okay? It was all right, but it wasn't great.
Well, it's funny because when we screened for the audience, we got audience feedback, and initially I took it really hard. Everybody was going, "Oh, the feedback's really," and I took it really hard, and it takes me a couple days to process, and then I was so grateful for the feedback because it was, people who weren't familiar with the film and gave us a new direction to go in. So.
Did you have a formal feedback process from that screening, or was it informal?
Mm-hmm. Well, we had questionnaires.
Okay.
And then we had open discussion, which we filmed to make sure that we captured everybody's comments. So yeah, I guess that's formal.
Yeah. Well, when we did Vig, we made a questionnaire. Who's your favorite character? Who's your least favorite character? What scene did you like most? What scene did you like least? You know,
what are your
all sorts of
questions
things
in the
like that.
story? What's missing
what
in the
doesn't
story?
make sense to you?
Yeah.
You know, all this stuff. And we went back, and because we had, you know, a couple hundred people at our you know, homegrown premiere, and it was tough for Al, the director, to read some of the things that he read, you know, but it was pretty consistent. A lot of the notes we got, and I went straight into the edit bay and started cutting things out of the movie. Like, this whole scene's gone. I'm out. Al's out. You know, no, we don't need to go to this place. And
yeah,
this
we lost a lot of
unnecessary.
scenes. We lost a lot of scenes.
Yeah, we cut like 25 minutes out of the movie.
Yeah.
But it was a better movie afterwards, and that's the one that we ended up taking to festivals and stuff. You got to be willing to do what they say, right? Kill the babies. Got to be willing to do it. If you're not willing to do it, you're never going to get better at being a filmmaker. Pure and simple.
Yeah.
You can't be that attached to it. Be attached to it right up to the moment that you present it to somebody. And then at that point,
gotta let it go.
It's no longer just yours. It's the viewing audience's too.
And that's I mean, as a filmmaker, as an artist, everybody participating in it, you want to feel good about the work, but ultimately it's for the audience, right? You want them to have an emotional experience with it. You know, you want them to care about the characters, you know, so it becomes theirs.
Yeah. Now, to that extent, I don't think anybody should go into a movie trying to craft something for the audience.
No, of course not. No,
necessarily
never.
Either. I tell our film team all the time, like, we're going to go in and make a movie that we want to see. And then we'll see if everybody else feels the same, you know?
Right, exactly. But when it gets to a certain point, you know, then you have to turn it over to the audience and make sure it's working for them. But no, I mean, I couldn't have worked for 4 years on something that was for somebody else, right? There's no way, right? The story needed to get told, and so.
That's great. Now that you've finished your first feature, you have another feature in mind? Are you and Lisa going to team up again and make another feature? Or?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know that I could direct a film again and not get paid, because Lisa and I were the only people on the project that didn't get paid. We talked about that.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure I would find somebody to pay me to direct their feature.
Well, that's, you know, that is something you and I talked about last week when, you know, because for those listening, I'm assisting Terry in some teaching lessons in her classes this week. But we did talk about it, that, like, I've been directing for 17 years and I've never been paid to direct a movie. I've been paid to direct some corporate stuff, but that doesn't, like, that's not creative.
Has aspects.
It has aspects of being a director, but it's not quite the same. But you know, in all the films that I've ever made, I've never been paid to be a director. I've usually shelled out my own money on all of them. Not usually. In fact, I have shelled out money on all of them because they're projects I feel need to be made or that I really want to be a part of. And, you know, it's nice that I'm directing. Sometimes it's my own project. Sometimes it is brought to me from somewhere else. But in the end, I always end up coming on board as a producer and spending my own money to make sure it gets made, you know, as well as I can possibly help it be so.
Right.
But it's hard. And a lot of people have asked me, why haven't you gone out and made a feature since What's the Vig? And, well, no, I worked on a couple features up in L.A., you know, and actually became a producer on one of them, and ghost directed and ghost wrote a new intro and a new outro to the film. The film's never going to see the light of day because of the financing issues. But I was really proud of the work. But, you know, in the end, it's uncredited. You know, and I wasn't paid for it. You know, I came on board. And
those two together aren't great.
Came on board to help it out, you know, but it's so true with the directors and the producers who are working in this area. You know, the struggle is really real for a lot of us. We have limited abilities to make money at the thing that we
really love doing, and you know, to devote 4 years of my life to a project, I have to really care about it. So if a story came up that I just felt I have to do this, then I would probably do it. But I think I want to do a different genre. I really want to do like a thriller, a mystery thriller, and maybe write it. I don't know. But you know, the baby's been birthed and we want to see how it grows up a little bit. Before I want to have my next child, quote unquote.
Well, I'm trying to cook up a thriller series, like a event series type thing. 8 to 10 episodes.
Cool.
Hour-long episodes kind of thing. And if it gets to where I can actually make it, my desire is to have multiple directors working on the different episodes here in town.
Okay, my hand's raised.
Yeah. So I will let you know when that opportunity rolls around. I'll send you the sample of the scripts that I've already put together.
I would like to see them.
It's kind of gruesome. But I've been enjoying working with you.
And it's been fantastic having you. Honestly, it's really, I love this. I love collaborative teaching, and I learn so much from you, and I know the students are getting a lot out of it. And we've talked about doing more to introduce lessons on continuity into the San Diego film community, and it's so valuable. It's so valuable.
Yeah. How long have you been teaching?
I started teaching acting. I started teaching in 1990.
Okay.
Started teaching acting in 1993. So I don't know. How many years is that? 20?
It's a while.
24 years, maybe? Something like that?
I will say this. 93 is when I graduated from high school. So I know exactly how long ago it is. But it makes me sad to say.
Right.
So we just won't say. People can do the math if they want. It was a little while ago. We'll just say that.
A little while ago. Yeah, more than a little while ago. And I've taught pretty much at all levels. I didn't teach grade school, but I've taught high school and college and master's programs, and then privately. So, and I love teaching college, and I was teaching at USD in the MFA program and in the undergrad program for the Old Globe, and teaching privately, and it just became too much. I mean, I was like commuting down and teaching at USD, and then teaching it. I was actually teaching out of my house like 4 or 5 days a week, and I finally just went, okay, I'm just going to jump off the cliff and start my own business, and I can go back to something else if it doesn't work, and praise God, the stars and my students. I've been doing that for the last 11 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks. So,
is that when the showcase started? When did you start doing showcases?
Well, no, I started doing showcases in like 98 or something. But I did them differently. Mm-hmm. So, I was teaching in a really cool photographer's studio, Dennis Covey, great guy, great photographer, his studio. And we'd have showcases in the studio, but I'd have monitors up on either side of our little stage, and I would block essentially so that you could watch it on the monitor and watch it live, and I'd film it. But I was feeling like this is really a hybrid because I'm teaching camera acting, but they're having to act on stage. And you know what I mean? It was like a hybrid. It wasn't really one or the other.
It's more like television acting.
Yeah, kind of like
live studio audience.
Exactly, kind of like television acting. And there was a studio up in LA that said that they were going to have a multi. Oh my God, I can't even. I must need more coffee. I can't think of the word. Anyway, I thought it was going to be both. I thought it was going to be a filmed showcase, and instead they had some monitors up on the top of the stage where each of the actors was asked like 20 questions about their character that was filmed, and then they did a live scene.
That's interesting.
It was interesting, but not. I realized I was having a different idea.
Right.
So I had made friends with this cinematographer, Jono Wells, and I said, Jono, how hard would it be for us to like film the scenes? 13 years later. So the first showcase, like I now do, was called Black and White, and we did all scenes from black and white films. Mm-hmm. And the quality was pretty bad, I have to say, but it was our first attempt. And then just each year, it got better and better, and I was working with different DPs, and now I have this fantastic team with Oscar and Jackie and John Freeman, and I feel like we have a really good quality product,
right.
quote unquote. Right.
Oscar's wonderful.
Yes, he is wonderful.
Yeah, I've gotten to work with him on a couple of corporate pieces, and actually on something with Lisa earlier this year, which was fun. But it's a huge endeavor.
The showcase?
What you do for the showcase.
It is.
Do you find yourself sometimes sitting back going, maybe we can do this simpler?
Actually, no. I keep trying to make it a little more complicated, I think. So keep trying to, I don't know, improve it a little or something.
Well, I know all the actors that I've spoken to who've been a part of that over the years really love it.
They do. They seem to really enjoy it.
And they love the presentation of it. And they love that chance for people to see them on stage and on the screen both. And it is different. Do you actively coach them to do the stage part?
Oh, yes.
Differently?
Yeah.
As a stage production as
yeah.
opposed to the film version?
Yeah.
And so I think that's it's a really interesting thing that you're doing there, and having them play the same character but in the two different styles, which is really neat.
Yeah. Some of my students do have stage experience, and that transition is easier, and some of them don't. And so if they've just been working on camera and then need to really think about, bigger size, in all aspects on the stage, that can be a hard transition. But then I also have people that have come from theater to film, and they have a more difficult time making that transition to making it,
Which
more
one do you
cinematic.
think is harder to get over? Going theater to film or film to theater?
I think it depends on how much experience somebody has had on stage before they come to film. Because if you've been on stage for a long time, that is a hard habit to break.
Right.
At the same time, if what you've primarily been working on is film, when you get to do stage work, you feel fake.
Right.
It feels fake. It feels,
It's so big and it's so
big.
dramatic.
Right. And I'm trying to have an intimate scene, and I'm turning out and I feel like I'm yelling.
Yeah.
So
I'm not looking this character in the eye.
Right.
I'm delivering it to the audience instead.
Right. So that can be.
Blocking's very different on stage.
Blocking is very different on stage. You have to find the audience, and instead of the camera being able to find you, so it can be tough going either direction. I think there's a real strong reason why previous stage actors who then have done a lot of film are really reluctant to go back to stage, because all the work they've been doing is so much more intimate, and then it's like, I don't even know how to be that big anymore.
I have found that if an actor doesn't have any stage experience, it's harder for me to get them to do blocking in my film where they turn away from the character they're acting opposite and like deliver lines, to the ether. Right. And sometimes that's the look I want. I want another character looking at the back of another person's head while that person's, saying, I don't understand why you did that, Tammy. It's like sometimes you need that drama anyway. But the people who've only done film acting, I have found I have a harder time getting them to turn away. Like they want to do everything eye to eye,
Right. Well,
but the stage actors, like, they go, oh yeah, okay, I get that.
Well, there's so much of a discipline for stage, right? That if you've had a lot of training, and you're not married, to that performance size, you can definitely just adapt all that training to film, and
right.
So blocking becomes not a hard thing. Here's the camera. Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. That's where I want to be, facing toward.
So for anybody who isn't familiar with your classes, where can they go to find out how to sign up and get in? And
Great.
You cover all ranges, right? Beginning all the way to advanced.
I do. I used to do kids. I now just do teens, preteen, about 12 through 18, and then adults, both introductory and intermediate. Actingprofessionally.com has all the info. And classes actually will be shutting down to all but showcase participants pretty soon, like toward beginning or middle of October. But I think for the first time, I'm going to open an intro class on Sundays after all my other classes. So I think I will be having an ongoing intro class. So
cool.
That'll be probably starting in January, and that'll be up on the website. I do want to say the showcase, to the best of my knowledge, is the only one in the country that does both this film and stage thing.
It's a unique
monster
deal.
I've put together.
And it's a lot of work. I can see why a lot of other people wouldn't do it. But I think that's one of the things that I hear from a lot of people who have taken your courses is that it's that trust level with you, because they know that you're there trying to really help them achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. And like, you put the extra effort in on your side. And I think they all feel the same, like they have to put the effort in on their side to get it right. It's
really nice to hear. I mean, it is my goal that when somebody goes through the showcase process, that I can feel really good about releasing them out into the world, either, to an agent that they'll know what to do in an audition or on set, or to an independent filmmaker, and they know what to do. They'll feel comfortable being on set, and will know how to take direction and all that stuff, all the good stuff.
So that's actingprofessionally.com. And then Carving a Life, if somebody wanted to go up and watch it in LA.
I should know the name of the theater, shouldn't I, Dave?
Where can they get the information for that? Okay. You just set that up. I was just going to say, what's the website?
I'm sitting here trying to think of the name of the theater. I can't think of it. It's on Sunset. Anyway, carvingalife.com. We'll have that information. And my Facebook page, my Acting Professionally Facebook page will have it.
Okay.
And it'll probably be posted all over Facebook more than anybody wants to be looking at it. So.
And when is the showcase next year?
March 14th.
March 14th. Mm-hmm. So everybody needs to
2018.
Scratch that time out in the calendar now, because you don't want to miss it. It's a lot of fun to go and watch. I've gone 2 years in a row now.
You've helped out 2 years in a row now.
But it is a lot of fun to watch what the actors who are participating in it get out of it. And it is fascinating to watch actors at varying levels tackling both a film version of a character and a stage version of a character, and kind of seeing, for me as a director, it's fun to watch them and go, definitely a stage actor, definitely a film actor, and just kind of play that game for myself. But it's incredible how many of them actually do really well on both sides.
Thanks. I'm always proud of them. Always proud of them.
And it is an entertaining night, and it's a great networking night too, because there's so many people there. And I'm always impressed by who you have coming out watching all your students, and that's the next part after taking classes, right?
Right. We want to get them out there in the world working, represented and working. Absolutely.
Yeah, so either come and watch or quickly sign up and get in and be part of the showcase. But either way, actingprofessionally.com for the classes and carvingalife.com for the film. And Terry, thank you so much for sitting in.
Thanks so much for having me, Dave.
It's great having you on the show.
Thank you.
All right. You know the old saying, you never get a second chance to make a first impression? That phrase is incredibly true in our business. In entertainment, your first impression can mean everything. It can mean the difference of booking a job or not booking a job, having an audition or not having an audition. That first impression can get you in the door and make things happen. And for an actor, that first impression is the headshot. First and foremost, casting directors, producers, they're going to see your headshot and they're going to make decisions about whether or not you get seen based on that one image. So it's incredibly important to make that image an investment in your future. And to do that, you want to find the right photographer, someone who's going to work with you to craft the perfect image, the perfect first impression. And I suggest you check out portraitsbypeggy.com. Peggy's been doing photography since the 80s, and she really knows her stuff. And she wants to work with you to craft the perfect captured image, the one that captures the uniqueness of you and helps you book the job. She wants to work with you. She wants to really get into who you are, what sort of jobs you're trying to book, and help you get the perfect image. So check out portraitsbypeggy.com and book your portfolio session today.